Hello and welcome back. Today we are continuing with our Fanhome Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Megazord build, and believe we're going to be putting together the front half of the torso for the saber-toothed tiger. Before we get into that, I just wanted to give a quick update on this as a whole. I can't remember if I've mentioned in a previous video or not. However, it's come to my attention that the step-by-step book is missing some instructions. The book finishes on page 502, which is combining the dinosaurs part 1. This is in respect of part 120, which is the final part of the Megazord build. However, the instructions don't actually they talk about fitting the parts, which I believe are going to end up being for stability purposes, but it doesn't go through any of the combining of the Zords, whether that's tank mode, Megazord mode, whatever, and there's nothing else in the book about this. Now, I understand I'm not the only one with this issue. I think this might be a almost company-wide issue, with the instructions not having been provided. Supposedly the instructions are available digitally. They are not. None of the instructions seem to have been uploaded, at least to my account on my Fanhome account. I've emailed Fanhome. They got back to me and wanted evidence that I was missing instructions. So I sent them a picture of where the book ended, and they came back and said it's had to have been escalated to a higher position. So I have no idea what's going on, but it sounds like this is obviously a big issue and isn't something that's necessarily going to be resolved quickly, or even maybe by the time that I've finished building this, which is frustrating. You know, the Megazord itself, touch wood, shouldn't be that difficult to combine. If you've ever played with a Megazord from Mighty Morphin before, you always know, you know that they all transform in pretty much an identical way, and I can't imagine this is going to be that dissimilar. But nonetheless, you would really expect there to be instructions on how to properly combine this sword, especially if you're someone who's purchasing this who isn't familiar with Power Rangers. It's unlikely, but you always have to take that approach when designing anything. So hopefully something happens. Hopefully we get some sort of resolution and instructions are provided. If not, I may have to try and figure this out on my own. Anyway, without further ado, let's get down to assembly. So it is building time. We have issue 39, which I believe is going to be the last part of our saber-toothed tiger build for a while. It looks like we've got some bits which will likely be for the pterodactyl. That certainly looks like a chest piece of the pterodactyl. In fact, when I first pulled this one out, I had to go back and double check that I wasn't missing any parts, because it doesn't look like there's much here for the saber-toothed tiger. It just looks like it's the piece of the pterodactyl, which is made out of a die-cast metal, as you can hear there. But nonetheless, we get our screws and we get a shock absorber for our Megazord. So let's get these screws opened up, get this all to one side. We got a whole bunch of washers again. There is a load of washers here, a lot more than I was anticipating. So we will see about that. Put that to one side. We've got a load of screws. So again, we'll be seeing how all of these screws fit together. Hopefully this isn't as fiddly as some of the builds. We've got some smaller PWM screws, and then PD screws as well. Let's get those to one side. Come on, there you go. There Right, I'm going to grab my screwdriver. There's this one here. So, first step is assembling our shock absorber. So this will go in like so, and then washers and screws. So let's get the washers and screws fitted together. It looks like we're going to be putting our front legs on as well, so I'm going to have to go get those in a minute. That will explain it, all of the screws. So let's get all of these screws fitted together because all of these have washers on them. And going to need So those building at home, how are you finding your build so far? Have you gone down the monthly route? Are you starting to get your packages again? I know that a lot of people are still having issues getting their packages dispatched on time. I really hope that Fanhome have either sorted that or get it sorted soon. It's certainly very unreasonable for collectors who are doing the monthly route to be constantly forced into a state of uncertainty. Those who purchased the annual build, how far along are you? If you sort of sat down and done it all in once, you're doing it in stages. Is there anyone out there who is doing one Zord at a time? You know, I've been following the instructions from 1, 2, so on. But in theory, it's entirely possible to skip between parts and focus solely on building one Zord at a time. I'd imagine that's a little more difficult because you then end up with leftover parts for other Zords and need to make sure you don't mix things up and not. So before we continue, I'm just going to grab the excess bits we need. So we're going to need the Megazord legs in a moment, but first off, as we saw, is fitting this shock absorber. So it's a simple job of getting our screws, lining one up and screwing it into place. Hardest part here is solely there we go. 1, 2. So, not to give Fanhome ideas or anything like that, hypothetically speaking, if they did the Dragonzord, is that something you'd go in as well? I would imagine the number of issues would have to be a lot smaller for a Dragonzord build. Solely because, you know, it's not as big, it's not as intricate as the 5 Zords. Although I don't know if Fanhome would do that or not. It's a lot of its success would be wildly dependent on those who purchased the Megazord to begin with. Although hypothetically, if they re-release the Megazord, say, so people could do both parts if they missed out on the Megazord. But I don't know if they would continue with Power Rangers. Maybe I'd like them to see it do a different season Zord. Season 2 Thunderzord could be interesting. That would certainly be a large scale piece to assemble. But, it is what it is. So then this gets fitted together like so, supposedly. He says completely unsure. this comes out, retrieve the yeah. Okay, so this piece will slide behind this one here. Like so. And that'll clip together like that. We then want 2 PB screws going into these 2 holes here. I'm going to need another screwdriver for that. Let's see. Where's my... There we go. My dark kit has a nice one which should work. There we go. So this screwdriver is out of that packet there, which is one of the 3 gifts with the Dalek build from Patch A. Now I must say, as a free gift, guys, that's pretty cool, and certainly something that Baby Fanhome should have considered for this set. You know, I know if you subscribe through their website, you get the premium kit, which comes with the display stand, which is obviously the sort of most deluxe gift, but essentially that's built into the cost for subscribers already. Not to say the other free gifts aren't somewhere along the lines, but I don't know, I think something more than a mug and a t-shirt could have certainly been provided to add something to the attraction of subscribing. I believe is everything. I think that's it. Yeah, that's tightened in nicely, and then we need to do the top 2 parts here. So again, 2 PB screws, it won't be as tricky. So I don't know if anyone actually closely follows Power Rangers or not, but I've noticed their YouTube channel started doing reignition videos. Not the actual episodes yet, but they've done sort of, I guess you'd class them as previews. I think they released what will end up being the theme song for the reignition series, and they did a brief video looking at the rivalry between Zordon and Rita. Supposedly, I don't know how, I don't recall it ever coming up in an episode, but supposedly the battle between Rita and Zordon came down to a coin toss. I really don't remember that being actually picked up in an episode and where that's come from. There we go. So those are screwed in. Everything's screwed together there. Then have our cover, which comes in. I think this can go either way. Hopefully this will go in tight enough that you don't need a lot. Right. Not quite sure. Okay, so what you want is the wider edge here facing towards the head. to line that up correctly. Once that's pushed in, you could get it out, but it's not coming out easily, so I'm not going to bother gluing that. Now we're on to fitting the two legs. So this will be our left leg and our right. So it's going to start with the left leg, so let's see about fitting this on. Did I mess this up? Oh shit. I have. I've completely messed this up. The shock absorbers should be facing around the other way. Good thing I haven't glued anything. Let's hope I can get this undone. I'm going to sort this out off camera. I'll be back soon. And we're back. I finally got the shock absorbers around the right way, and I've started fitting the legs. I've done this one and tightened these up. I'm just finishing off the right leg. Trying to get this and the screws in place is incredibly difficult. One, the washers want to fall off the screws, and two, they won't. Trying to get them lined up is impossible, especially if you're using a magnetized screwdriver, because every time you try to move something to line it up, it moves. After a lot of trial and error, I found that the best way to do it is try and get one of the screws lined up and into the hole before you put this on. Place this on, lightly screw that one into place, and then tackle the rest of the screws side on, so they should hopefully slide in a little bit easier. But yeah, that was incredibly difficult, solely because the gap between the base and the top is quite deep, and there's no way to sort of really just get these braced with your fingers or anything like that before getting them screwed in. But once everything's screwed in, you've then got your right and your left legs. And finally, we should just need to clip into place our covers here for the left and the right. So it should just slide in. Yep, that's a really tight fit, so you're not going to need any glue or anything there either. And another one here, supposedly. Ooh. That's it. There we go. We're nice and screwed tight on, and that is our saber-tooth tiger done for now. Next, I believe we move on to the start of the pterodactyl. These three screws here are actually for the pterodactyl. I wish that had been clearer in the instructions and not just put at the end. So I've put that to one side. But here we have the front half. You get some nice rotation at the head with the ball joint. We obviously get the rotation of the... Sorry, I got that off camera. We get rotation at the neck with the ball joint. We get our rotation at the tusks, mostly for the transformation. Articulated jaw. The neck will move up and down for transformation purposes. In addition, there appears to be what I'm assuming is a stand for transformation. We get rotation at the hip, rotation at the knee, and rotation at the ankle. So in theory, if we look towards what transformation may eventually look like, we can probably expect our legs to be out flat and the kickstand to come out at the back there to give us a brace. At least that looks like it. Interestingly enough, that obviously I don't know how accurate I am at the moment. I should be, based on, you know, the regular Megazord appearance. That stand at the back doesn't seem to offer a lot. It's not bracing on the table per se. All of the resting is on here and here. Perhaps it does add a bit of counterbalance to the rest of the Zord once it's all assembled. I don't know yet. That'll obviously be a case of seeing time. But yeah, and bring your knees down here. That's, I assume, what the Zord will look like in its combined mode. But there we go. It's definitely coming along now. We're a little over a quarter of the way, and this is starting to look really, really nice. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Stay safe, and until next time, may the power protect you.